And the breaking news coming in at this point, viewers, for anybody who's just tuned in, 7 of the remaining 20 living hostages have been released to the Red Cross by Hamas. These are the last living hostages held by Hamas since the last 2 years. They were taken hostage on the 7th of October 2023 when Hamas carried out the attack on Israel. 13 more to go, and there are 28 of the last hostages who are deceased, 20 of them living. 7 of these have been released. On the other end, Israel has reported that the prisoners which are taken in from Gaza are going to be released. They have already boarded buses. These are live visuals coming in from Gaza. We are waiting more details to give you a confirmed analysis of what we're seeing on the screens right now. What we can confirm to you is that these are visuals from Nasser Hospital. Of course, you see all those Palestinian flags flying high. Nasser Hospital in Gaza, the site which has been bombarded repeatedly over the last 2 years. All right. To discuss this further with me, I'm now being joined live by Navdeep Singh Suri. He is a former ambassador of India to Egypt and UAE. Ambassador Suri, thanks so much for joining me here on the broadcast. Pleasure speaking with you. Ambassador, it's going to be a hero's welcome for Trump. There's no doubt in this. But how is this plan, where we have already started seeing the release of hostages? What we know is that 7 hostages have been released by Hamas of the last 20, so 13 more to go. How is this going to be different from the last time we saw a phased plan for release of hostages in Gaza, which we saw earlier this year, which fell apart after the first phase?
Well, in a way, it shows you that it isn't military force that helped in rescuing the hostages. It is diplomatic negotiations. And in this case, certainly a lot of credit goes to President Trump for bringing the pressure on Israel to come back to the negotiating table. I'm hopeful that, what we are witnessing today will bring us back to the path of some kind of a peace. We will stop seeing the wholesale destruction of Gaza. We'll stop seeing the massacre of so many innocent men, women, and children. But I have to say that what we are witnessing is a ceasefire, and ceasefire is not necessarily peace. There are still many steps to go to be taken before any kind of a durable peace can be established in the region. And I think what is going to be crucial to follow, to see over the next few days is the extent to which the remaining parts of President Trump's 20-point plan are followed through on, because there's a lot of hard work still remaining to be done.
Ambassador Suri, you mentioned ceasefire is not necessarily equal to a long-lasting peace. Let me just take a little further from there, because as far as the US president is concerned, nothing to take away from what he has been able to achieve here. Of course, it's in his term that this ceasefire has taken place, but he said that the war in Gaza is over. And then, in the same day, within hours, there was a statement from the Israeli Prime Minister saying that the battle is not over and that Hamas has started rearming. It's barely been 3 to 4 days since this ceasefire. Do you think the war is over?
No, I don't think the war is over. I think the ceasefire is for a particular battle that's over for now. But peace has to be premised on some kind of a justice, some notion of equality of rights of the two parties. Peace isn't something that can be forced down the throats of unwilling parties. It is significant that when the meeting takes place in Sharm el-Sheikh today for the signing of the agreements, neither Israel nor Hamas will be on the table. So that alone shows you that there is a considerable distance still to be traveled. Let me take one specific example. Most people around the world think that peace can only come if there is a genuine two-state solution, if an independent Palestinian state lives peacefully side by side with a secure and peaceful Israeli state. But you also have Israel, at least in the form of its current government, that's completely denying the possibility of a Palestinian state. So it raises questions then that are we witnessing a break in the multiple rounds of fighting. Remember, this is not the first time that Gaza has been burning. It happened in 2008, it happened in 2012, it happened in 2014, in 18. We've seen this time and again because the underlying causes are not addressed. So my hope and prayer is that President Trump and his team follow through on all of the commitments, in particular the last one, which says that create the conditions that will take you towards a Palestinian state. I think that is really the bottom line on this.
A very, very important point raised, Ambassador. The two-state solution, which eventually all West Asian countries want, Hamas, of course, all Palestinians want it. Israel has not agreed to it. So while that underlying cause, which has caused this since decades of hostilities have been caused due to the ambiguity when it comes to any kind of a two-state solution, Israel is still adamant where it was earlier that they will not agree to it. But as far as the pressure on Israel is concerned, you did mention that Trump was able to exercise it. What about the pressure on Hamas? Do you feel all the West Asian countries coming together has put that pressure on Hamas? What made Hamas give up? Because any amount of Israeli hostilities did not get them to the negotiating table the way they have this time around.
I think one or two factors played a crucial role. One is certainly the fact that Hamas depends on Qatar and to some extent on Turkey and Egypt for its continued survival. And if those countries, as the principles where Hamas leadership is based, decide that we want to exert some pressure, then that pressure will be felt by Hamas. The second factor, I think, is that Hamas seems to have lost a degree of support within Gaza itself. It is the poor people of Gaza who've paid the price for the intransigence of Hamas. And I think that feedback must be getting back to the leadership that is sitting in Doha or in Istanbul or in other places, that our people are suffering because of our decisions, and it's time to call it. And perhaps the third thing is Hamas is a movement within certain ideology which rests on not necessarily the destruction of the state of Israel, but certainly the creation of a Palestinian state. And so again, longer term, whether it is Hamas or another resistance movement, another freedom movement, its success will really depend on the degree to which Israel accedes to its legitimate aspirations. If you don't, the whole world has recognized for 75 years, and certainly since 1967, you've got UN Security Council resolutions talking about a two-state solution, drawing the borders for you. There is no ambiguity on that. But on the other hand, Israel has created facts on the ground. You have 700,000 Jewish settlers in right around the West Bank in areas that were meant to be the heart of a Palestinian state. So unless you see a change, not just in Hamas, but also in the attitude of a very right-wing, very extremist government in Israel, if you have, you will currently you have a veto on two extremes, and the center ground is really missing. So unless that center ground comes back to the fore once again, the middle ground comes back to the fore, a durable solution is difficult. But I just hope that the U.S. administration and President Trump, he's the only one who has leverage on Israel, that he can continue with this and not demonstrate the kind of attention deficit that we see from time to time.
Ambassador Suri, that brings me to the next part of it. Once this exchange happens, who takes care of Gaza now? This body of peace, which has been announced by Donald Trump in that 20-point peace plan, it also has names like Tony Blair. But of course, Donald Trump himself is going to be at the helm of this body of peace. Is that going to be a solution or any kind of a path towards Palestinian statehood? Because when Donald Trump is at the helm of any affairs or is part of a body which is going to be taking care, you pretty much know Donald Trump is going to be calling the shots. So with Trump, is this also some kind of a path toward that Riviera that he wanted to create in Gaza? Do you see it that way?
It's hard to fathom what goes on in the mind of President Trump.
No doubt.
Honestly.
No doubt.
And I think a lot of experts around the world spend sleepless nights pondering over what next might emerge from there. But let me just say that you will need some kind of a transitional arrangement, if only to bring back a semblance of normalcy. You know, right now, Gaza is reduced to rubble. It doesn't have a functioning water supply. It doesn't have functioning electricity stations. It doesn't have functioning sewage, etc. So you will need some entity that has the expertise and that is well resourced to bring back these essentials of the minimum essentials of life in Gaza, along with the management of the aid, etc. The clearance of the rubble, which is millions of tons of rubble that you see everywhere. So I think it's not a bad thing to have a transitional government that is able to draw expertise and financial resources. It has to be Palestinian owned and Palestinian driven. I don't think there is much appetite in the Arab world. Remember, people have memories, and those memories will remind Palestinians that the very Brits that are represented by Tony Blair are the cause of the problem through the Balfour Declaration in 1917. That the partition of Palestine happened in 1948 as part of a British proposal. So I don't think there's going to be any great empathy to be serving with under a British-led transitional arrangement. But I think the important thing is to get capable, competent Palestinians. And there's no dearth of competence amongst the Palestinians. They are amongst the best educated people in that area.
Ambassador Suri, as we were speaking, there's a just update which has come in. I'd just like to bring it to everyone's attention. Of course, these are views from Tel Aviv that we have on the screens. But the update that we've just received is that large crowds are gathering in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, where hundreds of freed Palestinians are expected to arrive soon at the Nasser Medical Complex. We had visuals of the Nasser Hospital and the medical complex in Gaza a little while earlier. That is the region, that is the location where the freed prisoners are going to be arriving from Israel. What we understood so far is that these prisoners and detainees, they have already boarded buses from Israel, and they are going to be making it towards Nasser Hospital Medical Complex, where they are going to be reunited with their family and their kin once they arrive in Gaza.